Overstimulation has become a staple in our lives. Many of us these days consume digital content and instant gratification the same way we eat food and breathe air. In fact, some of us even go as far as to skip meals just to get our fix of dopamine for the day. And that was basically me for over half my life. I would wake up, check my phone, come back from school, play games, eat dinner or skip dinner really, and play more games. But eventually it got to a point where I couldn't even sit still for 10 seconds to read a single page from my textbook. If this sounds like you, then it is essential that you educate yourself on the dangers of overstimulation before it's too late. So the first real danger of overstimulation is when you allow all of these electronic stimulants and emotionally charged ideas into your brain all day, every day. You are giving up the ability to think for yourself, and that is a far bigger danger than you think. We currently live in an attention economy run by big corporations and media platforms. And almost everything important we do these days is done with our mind. And the most direct pathway into our mind is our attention. Your outcomes in life, your thoughts and beliefs are almost entirely predicated on where you allocate your attention. But your attention is also a scarce resource. There are only so many places you can put it towards each day. And guess what big corporations and scarce resources have in common? War. Bet you weren't expecting that one. Every day you are fighting an attention war between yourself and these large corporations. And whoever wins gets to control your mind for the day. Now, what happens to those people who lose the war? They become sheep. Their ideas are no longer their own. It's whatever the last headline on Twitter was or the last thing they read from Reddit. And this is where these internet hive minds come from. People just being emotionally triggered by these headlines written by smart news editors, and then those same people regurgitating those emotions onto social media thinking it's their own smart opinions. Now, what do these corporations gain from invading our minds and making us weak? So if you've ever read the book Hard Times Create Strong Men, you'll learn that one of the most effective ways throughout history to control a population is to first weaken its men. A nation with weak men cannot fight back. So if you're a gigantic corporation who wants more profits and more control, what's the next logical step after you've gotten a country's politicians in your back pockets? Well, you take over the country's citizens, and you start by first weakening its men. And just to illustrate this, I came across this clip on YouTube from Andrew Schultz a while back, and it was talking about the difference between the TikTok algorithm in China and in Western countries. And I think it really highlights the dangers of overstimulation in our modern world.
That's why the TikTok thing was a big deal, because it was a social media platform we didn't create. So it's like, oh shit, we don't want some other country's tech influencing us. Because apparently, like in China, the way that the algorithm works, it doesn't reward people doing stupid dances and like playing with their dog. The algorithm is rewarding things that they want to see their youth do. So people doing cool engineering shit, people doing cool science shit. But if you're China and you wanted to disrupt another country, wouldn't you reward the dumbest possible shit on that app?
Now imagine, if overstimulation can be used to this extent as a form of political warfare, think about what it could be doing to your mind. Digital stimulation doesn't just infiltrate our minds, it also controls our bodies and our actions. Some of you may be already familiar with this concept, but many of you may not know how bad it actually is. The mechanism that overstimulation uses to control our minds and our bodies is dopamine. As many of you know, dopamine is the chemical of motivation. Overstimulation is basically when your brain gets loaded with way too much cheap dopamine, and this gives you this uncontrollable urge to always do these instant gratification activities. But your success and your happiness in life are both heavily dictated by the actions and physical things you do with your body. Being able to actually get up and go to the gym, or sitting still and actually doing your work and not grabbing food every 10 seconds. And honestly, dopamine addiction and withdrawal are a real problem, and it's much worse for many people than you may think. Like, you ever wonder why incels or those similar types of people are always so twitchy and shit and always talk so fast, like me? It's because they spend all day consuming and consuming. Consuming depraved porn on 4chan, or consuming video games and YouTube nonstop, never leaving their rooms. And the reason it's so hard to get these guys to change their lives is because they just have such a limited attention span and such little physical control over their bodies. And I'm sure you know the feeling too. You're about to sit down and do something productive for once, and you literally start to feel the withdrawal symptoms from your video game or from YouTube. You get like restless, you read the same sentence over and over again. And just to prevent yourself from going back to gaming, you start checking your phone because it feels like the lesser of two evils. How the hell is someone like that supposed to change their life, or even change a single action, let alone their lives? Beyond being unable to control your mind and body, there is one far more sinister but less obvious effect of overstimulation. And if losing self-control is the cause of our weakness, then this is what will keep us there. The other big problem with overstimulation is that you lose your self-confidence and self-respect. When you lack discipline and the ability to control your thoughts and your actions, you constantly end up doing things that you are ashamed of. Things like binging on video games, jerking off 3 times a day. And this ends up dragging you into a downward spiral where you keep hating yourself and then you keep doing things that make you hate yourself more. You absolutely cannot lose your self-respect and confidence as a man. It is basically the foundation of your masculine essence and really your ability to do anything. Confidence is actually how you take action and make change in your life. There's this book called Influencer, and it talks about all the different ways that you can influence someone to actually change their behavior. And it did this through a series of scientific studies and experiments. And one of the key factors in determining whether someone can actually change their behavior is whether they believe they're capable of achieving it. In other words, your ability to change and direct your life directly corresponds to how much confidence you have in yourself. But if you constantly prove to yourself every day that you're a highly compulsive piece of shit and you have no self-control, what do you think that does to your confidence? And this is basically the same reason that really fat people can't lose weight. The fatter you are, the more hunger hormones and the less fullness hormones your body releases. So eating more literally causes you to need to eat more. And it does this because your body is always trying to reach this state of balance, or more scientifically, homeostasis. So if your default state is this zombified, low attention span state where you just have no free thinking capability, you're basically telling your body that this is how things should be. And guess what? When you actually try to change, when you try to use the power inside your mind, your brain will actually fight back against you. Who the hell are you trying to use your brain properly? Go back to reading Twitter posts and Reddit. So what can we do about this? Well, the first step is awareness. Awareness is key. And hopefully this video has helped with that. But you need to find a way to maintain that awareness throughout your daily life. So if you're new to all this and you haven't really practiced like meditation or self-reflection before, then you can start with some easy stuff like installing phone screen time apps or things like social media feed blockers like Unhook. But you really want to get to a point where you can actually exercise self-control and self-awareness on your own. And the best way to do that is through meditation. So imagine your attention was a muscle. Meditation is quite literally the practice of controlling and training that muscle. Now, I have a meditation video on my channel if you want to check it out, but it can be as simple as just sitting there for 1 minute, closing your eyes and just focusing on your breath. Now, the next strategy I highly recommend you do is to never check your phone when you wake up in the morning. Your day is heavily dictated by your morning. If you can control the morning, you can control your day. And I notice that every time I check my phone right away when I get out of bed, my day becomes like 50% less productive. My 3 hours of focus work in the morning becomes like 2 hours of checking YouTube and Discord and a little bit of half-ass work in between. And of course, another solution you can implement is a dopamine detox. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of those 7 or 30-day dopamine detoxes where you just do nothing. Most people simply don't have the willpower to succeed on them, and frankly, sitting around doing nothing is just not that productive. So I prefer to do what I call a progressive dopamine detox. This is where you take your single most time-consuming and addictive habit and you replace it with an easy but enjoyable and effective habit that is actually useful for you. For example, if you spend like 4 hours a day scrolling through TikTok, then replace that with something like going outside for 5 minutes every day. And then as you become accustomed to this change or this replacement, then you can do another switch and take a one bad habit and replace it with another good habit. So if you think you're struggling with overstimulation, then try to implement the actions I just went through in this video. Remember, you are fighting a war against these big media companies and platforms. And while it absolutely is possible for you to win, it will take time and patience. And honestly, the best thing you can do right now is to just click off this video, don't watch the next one, close YouTube and your computer and just go outside for 5 minutes. If your day is kind of going shit and you're struggling with self-control right now, then I can guarantee this will change the trajectory of your day. So go do it.